This is this is a special Board of Finance meeting because we changed the time. Is that correct, Karen?
That's correct.
Right. So this was supposed to be at 5:30. It's at 4:30. So this is a special Town of Woodbridge Board of Finance meeting for Thursday, September 15th, 2022. And with that, Karen, do we have any public comments that you could see?
No, we do not.
Okay. So we'll move right into Administrative Officer, Director of Finance report. I believe that means Tony Genovese has the floor.
Thank you. I have your preliminary year-end report for the fiscal year 2022. That's a surplus of $743,000 for the fiscal year. This brings us an unassigned fund balance of just about $8 million, which is 15.7% of expenditures for that year. Most of the gains were in the revenues, and that includes the FEMA reimbursements of $193,000 for expenses related to Storm Isaias. And we had $255,000 in additional special education excess cost grant funds. Now, in both of those instances, those are reimbursements for expenditures that we've had. So they're not necessarily additional revenue. They just, they're additional revenues in our budget, but they do reimburse expenditures. So those are two areas where we've had some surplus. And finally, the charge for services, we had a surplus of $328,000, of most of which is from building permits, $224,000 there. And a good portion of that comes from the water authority work being done in town. So that's a large portion of where our surplus comes from, is from these revenues. We did have a few departments with some surplus funds this year. Police department was $46,000. That was due to staffing. You know, when they have vacant positions or injuries, those tend to generate overtime. But in this particular year, the overtime did not exceed the savings in salary from not having a position. So that resulted in a surplus there. I would say that for the human services in the library, each department had surplus of wages, part-time wages, a lot to do with the introduction of full-time programming. And so it was $20,000 in human services, $54,000 in the library. Those have become much more stable, and we shouldn't see as large a surplus in the current year. Finally, the Woodbridge Board of Education is reporting a surplus of $37,000. So there's some small surplus. I do want to say too that if you look at the spreadsheet that I presented, you'll notice that all the departments are in a surplus or at a zero. And that's because the way we control budget, the budget level of control here in town is at the department level. So, which that means we have, I have each department be at a zero or a surplus. So no department will be in the negative. Line items within a department may be in the negative at the end of the year, but the department itself is either at a zero or at a surplus. So, and so I just wanted to mention that. And we have very cooperative, very helpful department heads who identify problem areas when they start to develop, and we come up with solutions on how to fund them. Oftentimes it's we can either delay projects or expenditures in the department, put stuff off, or sometimes we seek funding from additional lines or other line items. And so I just want to mention that.
So 15.7%, that's better than we've had in the past.
That's correct. It's a slightly better than we've had in the past. So what happened now, what'll happen is that'll go down slightly in the next year, because that's the fund balance percentage as of June 30th, 2022. And the budget, of course, goes up 2023, which means the denominator of the fraction will go up, which means the percentage will go down. So that'll probably go down a little bit to start the new year, but it is still higher than we've had in the past. So you can, you can use your fund balance in the budget process, particularly in a year where if we do not get any surplus funds from Amity, we have $611,000 in the 2023 budget. If we do not get surplus from Amity, then that's a $611,000 hole you have in your revenue budget. Not to mention the additional funds we used, if you recall, in the capital budget this year, which was another couple $100,000. So the surplus was actually $800,000.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a good example of where you can use your fund balance to help soften that impact. Which is why I say that's why you have a fund balance for times like this when you need to use it.
Correct. And as I'll report in my liaison, there's a big controversy about that because Amity does not want to return the surplus anymore. So we'll talk about that. So that's right now that's the way it is. We're not going to get anything, but we'll talk about that down in item 7. So, okay. Any questions for Tony on this? All righty. Status of the 22 audit, Tony?
We had their field work back in July. We've the auditors are coming out for their final audit work on the I think it's the 27th of September. So they'll be out for probably at least 3 weeks. And at that point, we'll give them the final trial balance, final year-to-date budget reports. They'll audit our payables, our receivables, taxes, and just make sure that essentially put together our financials for us. There's a new item this year as they try to capture more and more of our expenditures. We have to record all of our lease payments, and those will be declared in the financial statements, not just capital leases, which we have for fire trucks and for some other vehicles, or operating leases for copiers. If you have if you lease property. So it'll be a comprehensive overhaul of our lease expenditures. So I just thought I'd mention that's something new.
Okay. I don't know. Maybe I missed this page. Proposed meeting dates, was that in there? Proposed budget meeting dates?
Yes, it's in there, and it's here. And is this just for the review, or do you want to adopt that today?
It's for their review now, and then we can vote on it next month.
That sounds good.
It has in there the all of the dates for the budget.
Okay, I didn't for whatever reason I don't have it here. I probably didn't see it. I didn't print it. Okay, and Woodbridge Board of Ed financial report. I guess you already reported they're running a surplus, or
so they returned $37,000 and a little more than $37,000. 37,030.
Okay. Very good. Any questions for Tony?
I'll just also mention that the Board of Education also has prior year encumbrances that if they don't fulfill prior year encumbrances, they return that money also to us.
Okay.
So it's not just the 37,000, but if they had money reserved from the prior year and they didn't spend it all or for whatever reason, that also gets returned.
Okay.
Okay.
Under funding requests, Karen, you had sent us today that the Board of Selectmen passed. But we don't have any of the detail on 2 of them. Is that correct?
On 2 of them?
Well, the list I'm looking at, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the list that you said that the Board of Selectmen approved, there's 2 that aren't on here. One for 94-10-24 and one for 15-8-04-69.
We did them last night, and they're all
Yeah.
just signed them about 10 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Usually we have a week.
I just don't. I noticed when she sent us that, I think these aren't on our list here, so I don't know what we do in a case like that.
Is it the last 2, 06 and 07?
Yeah.
06 and 07, yeah.
Yeah. We don't have any. We just show through 05. So maybe if you could dig up we could maybe vote on them if we know what we're voting on.
They're 2 IT related transfers.
Okay.
Jerry's here and she has them if you need them, Karen.
I've got them.
Okay.
All right, when we get to those, Karen, you can just maybe read them to us.
Sure.
They're transfers, so it's not like we're taking the money out of the contingency, so. All right, so we'll start with 222301, which is the first of the year. And it's for $4,000 and it's a line item transfer within the Department of Public Works to address dead, dying trees that need to be removed or trimmed. And I guess this has been reviewed. So I'm going to move acceptance of line item transfer 2223-01 in the amount of $4,000.
I'll second.
Okay, is there anything special about this, Tony? I'm
Not
sure.
really, no, it's pretty routine. And this might not be the last of it. Warren's,
Okay,
has a lot of tree work, so.
okay. And this is work, does he do this or he's going to contract for it?
No, we contract for it.
Okay. All right, any other questions on this?
Where are these trees? Are these alongside the roadside or?
Correct. These are trees that are either on town property or in the town's right of way along roadsides. That's where most of them are.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Donovan?
Aye, second.
Okay, Susan, you're a yes. And Dwight?
Yes.
Okay. All right, next is 2223-02. And this request is for the purchase of a boom mower for maintenance of sight lines and roadways in town. The current mower is 25 years old. And this is, again, a line item transfer. It's coming out of Department of Public Works, capital non-recurring truck replacement and going for heavy equipment. So I will move acceptance of line item transfer 2223-02 in the amount of $32,000.
Second.
Okay. Anything special about this, Tony? I see it's what do they mean by sight lines? I don't understand that.
Have you ever seen the mower? It's got like an arm on it.
Yeah. And they go
It
along.
extends onto the.
Right. I
That's
see them
what
on the
that is.
highway a lot of times, yeah.
And so that's what they use it for roadside mowing, for sightline mowing and other difficult to reach areas.
Okay.
And the other ones, you'd be giving us a lot of trouble. We don't owe that thing anything. It's 25 years
Yeah,
old.
yes, 25 years. That's a lot of work, too. All right, questions? Anybody? Hearing none. Yes, yes. Dwight?
Yes.
Donovan, Susan? We're good.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
unanimous. Next is line item transfer 2223-03 in the amount of $10,090. And this is is this moving a grant or something, or?
Donation.
It's a donation from a town resident to
Oh,
purchase.
yes, right. The town resident
Yes.
donated this.
Yeah, it's for the Weiners. Yeah,
Right,
it's from
so-
Mike Weiner and his wife.
Right, we could purchase this. A speed awareness monitoring trailer, whatever that is. I will move as much as this is a donation. I'll move acceptance of 2223-03 in the amount of $10,090.
Second.
Okay. So some private citizen, there's a memo in here.
Yeah.
Donated $10,090. It's the Mr. Michael Weiner and Mrs. Cheryl Dawson.
Yeah, his wife. Yeah.
We thank them. I'm sure the police department is appreciative. So,
Yeah.
is there any other questions on this? No? Okay. I'm a yes. Donovan,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes, and thank you.
and Dwight.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. And then next we have line item transfer 2223-04. This transfer request is to transfer grant funds again to the Woodbridge Government Access Television budget for professional development, equipment upgrades, and a service contract. So again, this is just moving a grant money into an expense area so it can be processed. So I will move acceptance of line item transfer 2223-04 in the amount of $16,724.43.
Second.
Any discussion on this? Okay, I'm a yes. Dwight?
Yes.
Susan?
Yes.
and Donovan.
Yes.
Okay. And next is line item transfer 2223-05. And it's additional funding necessary to purchase 2 vehicles for the police department as approved in the capital budget. And again, there's a memo here from Chief Capiello. I guess they just came in, the price was,
It was particularly the hybrid vehicle.
yeah.
Yeah.
So again, we're moving this from Woodbridge Board of Ed, Tom?
Oh, that's from the tank project.
Oh, okay, all right, so money that we're never
The
gonna,
removal of the oil tanks. It's not really.
we're never gonna use
it's
that
at the Board
money.
of Ed, but it's a town project.
Okay, that's fine. So I will move
It's
acceptance
not
of line,
funds we used.
yeah, I'll move acceptance of line item transfer 2223-05 in the amount of 5,045.
Second.
Any discussion on this? Of course, we know when Tony's got dead money sitting around, he can certainly transfer it out and use it for something. Line item transfers are great, you know. No request for funding. We're good with that. We're good with this. Okay. I'm a yes. Dwight,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes.
and Donovan.
Yes.
Thank you. All right. So now we've got these other two. There's who wants to say what they're for? Tony, do you know? One's for 941024.
Yep. So they're both of these are IT related.
Right.
Both of these came up in a review, and both of these are pretty critical to our infrastructure. And while we were going to replace them in the budget for next year, it became evident that they are critical now. So the first one is for $9,410.24, and it's to replace a fiber optic connection from the Human Services Department to the Police Department radio room. It's in very tough shape. You probably saw it when you went through your walk of the center building, if you saw it hanging there.
Yeah.
But we have to secure that and replace that. It's not in great shape. So
Is this a line item transfer or funding
yes, it's a line item transfer.
within the same department?
No, it's from prior year purchase orders from different projects that were canceled that were not used. So
Okay.
there was funds remaining. So that's what this is from.
Okay. So I'll move acceptance of line item transfer 2023-06 in the amount of 9,410.24.
Second.
Any questions on this? Okay, yes, Donovan,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes.
and Dwight.
Yes.
Thank you. Next is line item transfer 2023-07 in the amount of 15,804.69. Tony.
So this is to replace 3 switches, one in Human Services, one in Public Works, and one at the library. These are the switches for our network that route the traffic throughout our network, and they need to be replaced for several reasons. One of which is their performance and other they're out of warranty and out of upgrade. They can't be upgraded, so we want to replace them before an upgrade comes in or a patch comes in. That's a security patch.
Who makes these decisions, Tony? Who's the genius or the expert on this?
So we have a firm that
Okay.
I work with
Okay.
that reviews our network on a regular basis, and we discuss it, and that's the sort of the process.
Okay.
Sometimes if it's a complicated matter or one that I need assistance with, I'll contact Sean over at Amity, and he's been helpful on a consulting basis for us.
Okay. So I will move acceptance of line item transfer 2223-07 in the amount of 15,804.69.
Second.
Any questions on this? Okay, I'm yes. Donovan, Susan,
Yes. Yes.
and Dwight.
Yes.
Okay, good. That takes care of funding. Approval of minutes. This is our July 21st, 2022 regular meeting, and I will move acceptance of the minutes of July 21st, 2022 as presented.
Second.
Any corrections, adjustments, suggestions, anything? Okay, hearing none. Yes, Dwight?
I wasn't there, so
Okay, so you'll abstain. All right, Donovan
Yes.
and Susan. Okay. That's the next. Next, budget guidelines.
So this is more for, yeah, we do this every year and it's for the board to
Yeah.
consider what guidelines, you don't have to answer tonight, but you could think about, what guidelines you would like us to present to the department heads when we send out information for the upcoming budget process.
Okay.
Okay?
All right, so we'll give it some thought and we'll put that back on the agenda next month.
Put it on next time, yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay.
First selectmen's report, Beth.
I'm here, sorry. I need to
Okay.
unmute. Thank you. Just a few things from last night. Our ad hoc dispatch committee, which have had many productive meetings over the past year, asked me, and I've agreed to expand the scope of the committee's charge to include review and discussion of all public safety matters related to fire and police. We're working very well together. Just so you know, we submitted a steep grant on Monday, August 15th, asking for $500,000 to renovate the gymnasium in the center building into a modern, comfortable, multi-purpose gym and auditorium. As you know, currently there's no ventilation or air conditioning and the windows are inoperable. This area, which does serve as a part of our emergency shelter system, has been nearly unusable during the COVID pandemic. Our proposal included upgrades to the electrical service to add HVAC to the space, renovate the restrooms, resurface and restripe the wood floors, and install safety padding along the walls. We did have this as one of our suggestions for using ARPA funds, but if we can get it funded through STEEP, that'll save us $500,000 to use somewhere else. On those lines, I spoke with both State Senators Cabrera and Maroney and State Representative Wiehlander for their support regarding this project. They have sent letters and have agreed to try to shepherd it through. We shall see.
Hey, Beth?
Yep.
One quick question. Those spaces are included in the center building RFQ. So just if you can just keep me informed as this thing moves around, because if we pull it out, we have time to do that. That's all.
Absolutely. That's a good point, Dwight. Who knows if we, no one seems to know the next time that they're going to be meeting to disperse these funds, but I promise to let you know as soon as I know.
Yeah.
It's a positive thing to tell everyone.
Okay.
If history is a guide,
Yep.
they usually let people know in, mid-October.
Or what we can do is we can
Surprise,
always
surprise. There's an election November 7th.
Correct. So,
Yes.
we can do a breakout too.
Yeah.
I can always break that area out too if need be.
Good point, Dwight. Thank you.
It's not a problem.
It'll be my third call. Thank you, my friend. Some good news. The over 55 Toll Brothers project on Bradley Road and Litchfield Turnpike was unanimously approved by TP&Z Commission last week. So stay tuned on that. Last month, Tony and I had a meeting with UI officials, which also included representatives from other towns regarding their recent application to PURA as they are, quote unquote, making their case in 2022, as they put it, for proposed rate hike. I asked for a fact sheet regarding possible rate increase schedule, and it's now on the town website. So that will be something we need to follow carefully. Please check the town website. There were probably 3 pages because I don't have Bessie Agla to help out. So I had to do all of the upcoming events, and they were all in my remarks and on the town website. We have many events coming up. Hope you'll be able to attend some of them in the next few weeks. Just lastly, I'm sure you have all heard about the open community civil lawsuit that the town has received, and we have to be very measured in terms of our response. So everything that I say about it is coming from our lawyer. So I will read the following statement. The town will defend this case, and we fully expect to be successful. We are a diverse and wonderful community, which will be demonstrated at trial, and I am committed to contesting the claims made by the lawyers who brought this suit. And with that, thank you very much. That's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Beth. Okay, liaison reports. Bear with me on this one. It's going to take me a few minutes, but since our last meeting, the superintendent of schools of Amity, Dr. Byers, met with Beth and Jim Zioli and Paula Cofrancesco from Bethany to inform them that they have decided that based on a statute that they will no longer be returning surplus funds to the three towns. Now, that is a lot of money, and I've always been acceptant. I've always accepted it because they returned it to us, the surpluses. But there was a year where it was $3 million, and we have Jim Leahy in Orange who's been hammering this for years. And I always said, Jim, look, as long as we get it back, I mean, the taxpayers paid them this money, and the taxpayers will get the benefit of it. Well, they've decided that they're not going to do that anymore, and that is a monumental change. As you know, as Tony was saying earlier in the meeting, we got back, $600,000-700,000, and the thought of them keeping all this money and it's just, it's mind-boggling. So I did a little research on it, and the statute that they're referring to says, and if you just read, I'll read this to you because it says the board shall, I'll keep that word in mind, shall use any budget appropriation which has not been expended by the end of the fiscal year to reduce the net expense of the district for the following year. Now, I talked to several attorneys who told me that that's the worst word you can ever put into a legal document. And I even went so far, they refer me to, there's an article, it's called Shall and Must. Use must, not shall, to impose requirements. Shall is ambiguous and rarely occurs in everyday conversation. The legal community is moving to a strong preference for must as the clearest way to express a requirement or obligation. First, lawyers regularly misuse it to mean something other than has a duty to do, has become so corrupted by misuse that it has no firm meaning. Second, and related to the first, and this is important, it breeds litigation. There are 76 pages of words and phrases that summarize hundreds of cases interpreting shall. Nobody uses shall in common speech. It's one more example of unnecessary lawyer talk. Nobody says, you shall finish the project in a week. So I spoke to several attorneys. One attorney in particular told me that we have a precedent in that they've been returning this money to us under an agreement. And the word shall, in his opinion, means they can keep it or they can return it. He doesn't believe it forces them to keep the money, but they're using it that way. And but he did say if they want to interpret the word shall to mean they can keep it, they can, so they're keeping it. Now, there's not much we can do other than watch their budget close. I mean, the other night at the finance meeting, the surplus for the first 2 months of the year, July and August, is $1,203,000. So in 2 months of the year, they've generated $1,200,000 in surplus, and God only knows what it's going to be by the end of the year. So in light of this, and in light of the fact that they have been ignored, I'm on the finance committee, as you know, and in light of the fact they've been basically ignoring us now for 2 years, we rarely vote no on items that have come before us. But whenever we do vote no, and the only way that carries is one member of the Board of Education has to be on board with the 3 members of the town, and we've had that. It goes to the full board, and they just basically ignore us, and they pass whatever they want. For example, last month, there was the question of should they put aside 1% or 2% in the capital and non-recurring budget, which is $500,000 or $1 million, and we voted. I didn't. I abstained because I basically told them you're wasting your time. They're going to overrule us. We voted, or the finance committee voted for 2%. I mean 1%, and sure enough, the full board voted for 2%. So basically, we're being disregarded, and for that reason, I resigned. I resigned from the Amity Finance Committee because my time is too valuable to go sit there and just be ignored and be disregarded. And the final straw for me was this surplus. This is a horrible thing they've done. And I am going to join up with a group of people that are out there. Because on top of this, there are major problems in Amity with this DEI and all this stuff. And there's a group of unbelievably talented, well-respected people who are all over this and fighting this with Amity. There's a lot going on at Amity, and there's going to be a lot of bad publicity, I'm afraid, about this. You know what I'm talking about? This DEI and EIP. I don't know what it's called, but matter of fact, I received a call today from the woman, a very, very fine woman, a Woodbridge resident. Woodbridge residents seem to be the bulk of the people on this committee who are fighting away on this stuff. I mean, she told me some of the stuff that's in books over there. It's beyond disgusting, and so they're fighting it on that front. I am going to get involved in fighting the budget and keeping the budget, because if we don't keep that budget under control, I mean, it's just a free for all. I mean, all the surplus funds go back to them, and the budget, whatever they ask for, you know, as you saw last year, Jim Leahy, who I'll be working with now, believe it or not, he put this the numbers together, and basically he was the reason two budgets failed. So I think the chairman of the Orange Board of Finance, Kevin Houlihan, and the chairman of the Bethany Board of Finance, Sharon Huxley, are all going to join up with us, and as many finance people as we can get, we're going to join up, and we're going to be scrutinizing this budget like never before. We have to, because if they build in surpluses, they're going to have money that I mean, they're going to have a pocket of money that beyond belief. It's awful. I mean, I think it's
So Matt, can I ask you a question? I mean,
Yeah,
in other
yeah.
districts, I
Hmm.
assume that, and we've talked about this before, that this is as much a budgeting practice in one direction where surpluses are built in, and it's a budgeting practice where surpluses are not built in. So I assume that Amity understands that if they're not going to be returning what have been budgeted surpluses, that the three towns will now talk about only approving or only moving forward or supporting budgets where the surpluses are not there. It's a budgeting style, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
As much as anything else.
Yeah.
So it's not unrealistic as long as Amity is realistic and understands that that budgeting style is likely to get phased out. It may just take a while, a year. Am I right, Tony? Am I off?
So they're going to have to be more diligent about their estimates and some of where they budget some of
Right.
their line items for that reason, because they're generating these surpluses on a regular basis.
So presumably, I shouldn't say presumably, but I'm going to say presumably, they know that.
Oh, yes, I'm sure they do. I'm sure they do. But
Okay.
I mean, I made this speech the other night, and then they just looked at me. You know, it's a terrible, terrible thing they've done. And what bothers me more than anything is they contacted Beth and Jim and Paula, and it wasn't, let's talk about it, let's get together and meet on it, let's get a group of people together, we want to talk about this. That was it. They decided on their own that they were no longer going to return. And again, I don't think I'd be having this conversation if their normal surplus was 100,000 or 50,000, or you're talking millions here that they end up with. And I just can't fathom how we've got to, again, we're going to scrutinize this budget. And Orange last year recommended a 0.41% increase, and so did Bethany. And to get the thing off the table and into a referendum, I said, look, let's go to 3.99 and see what happens. And it got voted down at 3.99 twice. And so I think Amity is going to find out that there's going to be some tough sledding with their budget, because I just don't think we can afford to leave them this leeway of having, again, 1,200,000 in 2 months. I don't know if it's going to continue on that way, but again, there have been years when $3 million surplus, and for them to keep that money, and oh yeah, we're going to use it to offset the budget. Well, you know what? I don't buy that. I don't buy that. That's basically the story of the other night. I resigned, and I'm happy to have done so. And the other two members, they're having second thoughts too, because I said to them, I said, what are we accomplishing here? We come to these meetings, we talk about things, and we vote on things, and they totally disregard us. It's like we don't even matter. I'd like to think that when they hear that the three townspeople and one Board of Ed member said no, that they should talk about it, and no, they just routinely just, no, we'll do it our way. So what that means also is this: there is now a missing person on the finance committee. There's supposed to be a member from each town, and I've been doing it for 20 years, far longer than anybody else. But so we'll talk about this next month when hopefully we have a full board of finance. I would be hard pressed if somebody wants to do it. I would be hard pressed to tell them it's a good thing, because I just found myself. I mean, I always enjoyed it, and I always felt we accomplished something. But now lately I felt like I was spinning my wheels, and so we'll talk about it. And if somebody really wants to take my place, be my guest. But it's futility beyond belief. It's a lot of hours during the budget season, and to know you have no control over it is, I don't know. It's going to be up to. We'll talk about it, and I'll offer it up. But like I said, and if that happens, I think, Susan, I talked to you about it, and you said what I was thinking, and that is, do we really need this finance committee? And
I mean, the history of it is that this finance committee came together when the Amity budget process was in crisis.
correct.
And it was established almost in lieu of, if I'm not mistaken, sort of a state receivership sort of thing. Maybe not that extreme, but they were in absolute crisis. There was 17 or 18 referenda, as I recall. And that municipal support was needed. The statute does not authorize municipal oversight of the education budget. So it's always been a very sort of, there was palpable comedy, COMITY, not COMEDY, in the context of those meetings. It may be that it has run its course in terms of the purpose, and that what really has to happen is a reset on budget styling so that surpluses are not built in. So who knows? Maybe it should be disbanded. That was the context of the conversation.
Brought that up, and I brought that up, and the superintendent said, she has to look at the bylaw, but it really doesn't cover. I said, well, if the next meeting, you have the next meeting, and you're not going to have a Woodbridge representative there, and the one who's not there isn't there at all, you resign. So I don't think the committee should meet. And she said, well, we'll have to check that and check with our attorneys as well. I mean, Susan, honestly, the establishment of the Amity Finance Committee got the budget passed after 18 failed referendum. People
correct. Correct. It restored confidence. There's no question
people were very happy that we'd be on. There was supposed to be the three chairmen of the boards of finance. It ended up being me, and then they always had good members. But so I don't know. That'll be something else that people are going to find out about. That in addition to them keeping the surplus, there's also no longer this oversight. And we'll see how townspeople react to that. But again, there's a lot more stuff, and I'll say the bulk of the people on this other committee to talk about all this other stuff are Woodbridge residents. They are very, very unhappy. And if you see the names, it's a who's who in Woodbridge. I mean, some really top shelf people who are fighting this thing. So it's going to be interesting, because these are not people that you should take lightly. They're very, very, very bright and very qualified to talk about this stuff. They're psychologists, and unbelievable. And they've done their research. And they have the dollars they've spent on this, and the DI coach and all this. So,
but I think it's a mistake to conflate these issues.
Yeah.
Myself, that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
These are very separate issues, and I don't think we do this group, our board, any favors if we conflate them as being somehow tied. But to your point, Matt, we'll find out, I guess.
Yeah. There's a lot more to come. I mean, after I left the meeting, the superintendent came out in the hallway and met me. And she made it sound like, well, it's not really final, about about the surplus. We'll know in January. And she said to me, I said, well,
Yeah.
if you want to avoid a real battle, you might want to think about it. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. All right, Susan, as long as you're there, why don't you have any liaison?
So I was not able to attend the library commission because I was involved as the Board of Finance liaison to the teacher negotiations.
Yes.
I can report on that's moved in a very positive direction. They have come to terms. The terms I previewed with Matt and Tony. I think it ends up being 11.25% over the course of 3 years on wages. The share cost, of course, depends a little bit on the insurance choices that are being made. I think if things stay exactly the same, it's something like 18%, 18 and a quarter, 18.5% over 3 years. One thing that I felt strongly about, and I'm happy to say that it was built in, is a sort of look and see study over the next year of some insurance alternatives which have the potential to save some real bucks for the town and the Board of Ed and I wouldn't expect anybody to just change insurance for the heck of it, but this way there's a look back before the agreement actually takes effect, because it doesn't take effect till next year. So the teachers are going to look at it, and I think that that's a good thing, and the Board of Ed's going to look at that. And Monday night at 11:30 at night, everybody shook hands and said, great. So the next step is it has to be ratified by the teachers union, and then it will go before the Board of Ed. Hopefully that all happens in the next 2 or 3 weeks. There's an executive session involved. So I don't know if I'll be attending that or not. So that's where it stands.
Who represents the town legally? What lawyer is it?
Floyd.
Floyd is for the town?
US. Yeah, did a nice job, very nice.
And Board of
And
Ed has their own person? Board of Ed has their own person?
yes, right.
Okay, thank you. Dwight, you have anything?
I was just following up on a memo that Beth sent that we're not doing liaisons anymore. But if I can, I would. But I just want to give you an update on the building committee for the center building. I am the chair. We did an RFQ to seek out architectural engineering firms. We went out to bid, and the response was pretty light. Right, Tony? Yeah, we only got like 3 firms. No, we didn't get a lot of responses, so we decided we canceled that RFQ. I'm working on a new one, an updated one, and our building committee is going to meet next week, and then hopefully we'll ratify it, get it to the town, so we can go out. We can go back out on the market around the 22nd of September is my target. And then we're going to do a pre-bid meeting on October 6th in room 16, do another tour of the center building, show them exactly what's going on. And then we're asking for bids to be due on October 27th. So that's basically, and then from there we'll understand fees for certain options and all that stuff, and then we'll be able to talk a little bit more at that time.
Okay.
Right? That pretty quick, or
Yeah.
So I didn't think, Beth, you didn't tell us we can't do liaison, right? The Board of
Right.
Selectmen aren't doing liaison.
That's correct.
Right, we never got a chance to talk about it last month, and obviously we're not gonna talk about that, but hopefully October we'll all be here and we can talk about that.
Right.
Whether or not we want to continue the liaison, and we also still haven't voted for a chairman or vice chairman, so. But yeah, so the Board of Selectmen aren't doing liaison anymore?
Correct. You have an assignment and it's up to the person or the individual liaison person to
Okay.
decide about whether or not to go to the meeting. Stay in touch with the chair of a particular board or commission. If there's anything that they need help with or want to talk about, they will bring it to me or try to resolve it themselves. And there might be an opportunity here and there during budget seasons where it might be necessary for a liaison to attend to help them
Yeah.
with things like that. But it's optional at this point.
Right.
Okay. Donovan, you have anything?
After the August break, the first meeting will be on Monday,
Okay.
the 19th.
Very good. Is there anything else?
I just want to say one other thing. I was very impressed with the perseverance and stamina of both the teachers and the Board of Education. They did a terrific job, and I hope that it gets ratified according to the terms that they've agreed with. Everybody worked very hard.
Okay. With that, I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
See you in
Yep.
October.
Good night,
Okay.
everybody.
All right.
Good night.
Take care.
Good night.